This is CBC Vancouver News.
There's a problem with the economy. Apparently we call that, inflation.
BC homeowners on the brink as interest rates rise again, and banks say there's more to come. Also,
accepting difference is a celebration by itself.
Shifting demographics. The new census results show the majority of Metro Vancouver residents are now people of color. And
southeast winds gusting 30 to 50 kilometers an hour for tomorrow and up to 70 kilometers near the water.
With an atmospheric river on the way, warnings about the need to prepare. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Dan is away this week. I'm Michelle Ghoussoub. More tough news for many homeowners tonight. On top of the rising cost of living, get ready to pay even more for your mortgage. The Bank of Canada raised its key interest rate again today in a bid to fight inflation. As John Hernandez reports, it's another blow to homeowners in BC who are already feeling stretched thin.
Every day it seems like there's some more news, more costs, and it's scary.
Alex Tappan woke up to find out his monthly mortgage payments are going up again. He bought this North Vancouver townhome last year.
We decided to go variable, and until today that was the right move. This is the day where our variable payments are higher than what we could have had for fixed.
His monthly payments have increased by about 40%, now sitting at well over $4,000. The result of mounting interest rates as the central bank attempts to fight inflation. Financial pressure is mounting.
We're just tightening the belt. We stopped dining out, started sale shopping, coupon clipping, like we had to do in the old times. We stopped investing in our kids' RESPs, stopped all RRSP contributions.
Since March, the Bank of Canada has raised its policy rate 6 times, raising it from a low of 0.25% all the way up to 3.75% as of today. That's the highest it's been in decades.
We also expect our policy rate will need to increase further.
Tappan, who is also a realtor, expects he can manage high rates for another year, but knows it's even worse for others.
I'm talking to clients right now who are on fixed incomes, and they do not have any luxury. They're cashing in their retirement savings or taking equity out of their house just to pay the mortgage. And if you call the bank and ask for help, they'll advise you to borrow more to make your payments.
A storm this mortgage broker says will get worse before it gets better.
If I was a betting man, I would say we're going to have some increases over this coming year. There'll probably be 2, 3, maybe even 4 more rate increases. And hopefully that will get things in line.
Financial risks. Tappan says realtors and lenders need to do a better job communicating to buyers.
It's our job, both as realtors and mortgage lenders, to explain the risks and not push people into getting the biggest house they can. It's not responsible.
Hard times likely to get harder with the next rate hike expected in December. John Hernandez, CBC News, North Vancouver.
New census data is giving BC a glimpse of its changing population. The results of the 2021 survey show Metro Vancouver's demographics continue to shift, with over half the population identifying as people of color. As Josh Grant reports, experts hope local leaders will use the data to inform public policy.
Census data isn't always the best conversation starter, but news that the majority of Metro Vancouver identifies as a non-Indigenous person of color didn't come as a big surprise to people living in the city.
That's one of the things that makes me stay in Vancouver, actually, the fact that it's super diverse. Diversity not only in terms of the ethnic origin, even in terms of how people express themselves in different ways.
As an immigrant, I feel included in everything almost. Since I'm Latin American, I see that there's a lot of Latin Americans as well, so I don't feel away from home.
People from all different backgrounds, all different ethnicities can call Vancouver home, and I think that says a good thing about our city.
For the first time in over a decade, most of BC's newcomers came from India rather than China. According to Statistics Canada, the number of people in Vancouver who belong to a visible minority jumped from 49 to 54%. 56% of respondents in Coquitlam, 67% in Surrey and Burnaby, and 80% in Richmond also identified as visible minorities.
It gives us an opportunity to check who isn't at the table as well as who is at the table.
This urban planner says census data can give us and government a better understanding of our communities.
It begins conversations around inclusion. It begins conversations around society. That are we talking about issues of access to healthcare, to housing, to economic inclusion.
Beyond conversation, Yan says he hopes the data will also drive municipal and provincial policies and motivate colleges, universities, and other institutions to increase access to opportunities and improve representation.
It's healthy for a multi-ethnic liberal democracy to have these moments of reflection and yet have it translate into action.
On November 30th, StatsCan will be sharing its survey on education and careers. Yan says that will paint a clearer picture of where the province needs to do better. Josh Grant, CBC News, Vancouver.
As we've seen, our province's increased diversity has already started to trickle into municipal politics, including right here in Vancouver. But it doesn't stop there. Justin McElroy has more now as part of this week's Metro Matters column.
Let's take a look back to election night.
135 years after the first Chinese head tax was paid just for the right to come here and work on building a railway, Vancouver has elected its first Chinese-Canadian.
That was Ken Sim reflecting on a historic occasion, the first person of color to be mayor of Vancouver.
The history of this moment isn't lost on me.
But Sim wasn't the only person to break a barrier on election night. Prince George and Williams Lake elected their first mayors of color. A majority of Burnaby councillors are people of color, the first time in a major BC city that's happened. And now, Stats Canada says another milestone has been reached.
The census collects information on the demographic, social, and economic situation of Canadians and the dwellings they live in. The data provides Canadians with high-quality statistical information that matters.
Deeply bureaucratic video aside, the census data does matter. And it tells us that now a majority of people in Metro Vancouver are what StatsCan defines as a visible minority, non-Indigenous people of color. That includes more than 80% of people in Richmond and 2/3 of people in Burnaby and Surrey. The terminology used by StatsCan is clunky at best and doesn't reflect the realities of a place like Metro Vancouver anymore. But it does illustrate our changing landscape.
My family story actually resonated with a lot of people because they saw, like, that was their family story too, and a lot of people didn't think this day would come.
At the same time, the reason we note these milestones is because they're still milestones. Here is a chart. It shows the representation in federal and provincial politics in Metro Vancouver, and then what it looks like in local politics after this month's election. What's reflected in the data isn't quite reflected in city halls and boardrooms yet, but Sim's election shows the future in more ways than one.
Now to Smithers, where 4 police vehicles, an ambulance, and a BC Hydro truck went up in flames early this morning after a fire broke out in a hotel parking lot downtown. It happened around 4:30 this morning at the Sunshine Inn. RCMP say no one was hurt and the hotel was unscathed, but 8 vehicles were damaged. Police are calling this a targeted attack on emergency service vehicles, and they're asking the public's help in finding the person suspected of arson. Well, historic changes are on the way for BC's child welfare laws. Indigenous communities will soon be allowed to provide their own child and family services after amendments to the law were introduced in the legislature today. As Mira Baines reports, it will also enable First Nations to collaborate on adoptions for Indigenous children.
It's a big change, giving First Nations the right to protect their own children and youth, something the government says is righting a wrong.
The child welfare system remains driven by harmful colonial thinking and practices, and that must change.
The amendments were marked by a special ceremony. Cowichan Tribes is one of 4 Indigenous governing bodies in BC in talks with the province to exercise jurisdiction.
Cowichan Tribes is in the best position to protect our children through stabilizing and strengthening families.
The province and Indigenous groups say the goal is to cut down on the disproportionate number of Indigenous children in government care. Census data from 2021 shows Indigenous children made up about 54% of all children in foster care, despite making up 7.7% of the population. Indigenous leaders are hoping to move away from the dark history of residential schools.
And we're starting to turn that page through reconciliation to hopefully a better chapter. But we need to be involved in the writing of that chapter.
Charlie says the process will take time, possibly up to 2 years to implement, and will need resources to make it happen.
We do know that it's going to be a long process to kind of transform the system that hasn't worked for us. But the longer we wait, the more of our children get lost in that system.
This Indigenous lawyer says small rural communities may face challenges creating their own system.
Some of them less than 150 or 200 members. So those will probably face a greater challenge to find the proper resources and funding to fully implement their own rules and standards.
The move is considered a first in Canada, according to the province. BC is the only one that will expressly recognize the inherent right of Indigenous communities to exercise jurisdiction over child and family services. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
NDP Premier Designate David Eby took an important step towards taking the reins in BC, meeting with Lieutenant Governor Janet Austin.
She has invited me to form government, which is obviously exciting, and I can't wait to get to work.
The date for his swearing in hasn't yet been confirmed, but Eby hopes to take over the job before the end of the legislative session. The NDP Premier Designate says his plans in office include addressing housing, healthcare, public safety, and the environment. The RCMP officer killed in Burnaby last week will soon be laid to rest. Constable Shaylin Yang worked with the RCMP's mental health and outreach team. She was stabbed and killed while performing a routine bylaw enforcement at a tent in Broadview Park. A full regimental funeral will take place next Wednesday, November 2nd at 11 a.m. at the Richmond Olympic Oval. Yang's family, friends, and the RCMP are expressing gratitude for the outpouring of support they've received since her death. And anyone looking to pay their respects can do so by using the email address listed on your screen. Our province's seemingly endless summer weather has finally come to an end. But if you were hoping for temperatures in the teens, think again. Serious rain is back in the forecast, with an atmospheric river expected to hit the south coast starting tonight. And as Joel Ballard reports, people are being asked to prepare.
Out with the October sun, in with the fall rain.
We are looking at a rather strong storm to move over the south coast.
Some areas could see up to 60 millimeters of rain, carrying right through Thursday.
We are anticipating some fairly windy conditions as well. So southeast winds gusting 30 to 50 kilometers an hour for tomorrow and up to 70 kilometers near the water.
That's cause for concern for the team at BC Hydro.
With back-to-back really extremely warm summers and also a dry fall, what we're seeing is a lot of dead and weakened trees.
Strong winds could knock the trees down, risking major power outages. A challenge not just for this storm, but for the entire season. Intensified after last year's storms brought a lack of wind.
We have 2 years of built-up weak soil and weak trees and vegetation that could pose some difficulties once the winds start.
Those living on the south coast are used to rain. But after a couple years of environmental emergencies, anxiety is high.
You just kind of steel yourself, you know what I mean? Like, brace for it, you got to just get through it, right?
A little concerned about what it's going to do to, our parks, and like I know the seawall took abuse last year.
Yeah, for me I think it's kind of like a mental preparation, just because last year was really hard. Because it was my first year here and I'm from California where we got a lot less rain.
In case this year's storm season does lead to emergencies, experts say now is the time to prepare.
You need to have the supplies that you're going to need to get through the next several hours, next several days.
Pack an emergency kit, develop an emergency plan with loved ones.
It's going to help get you through no matter what the disaster.
Heading into November, Environment Canada says the South Coast could be in for an above-average rainy season. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
I actually just bought a jug of fog juice last weekend, and I want to say it doubled in price.
Halloween enthusiasts are seeing frightening prices as they try to bring cheer to their neighborhoods. That story next. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. An art installation helping to share the stories of missing and murdered Indigenous women and children is slowly making its way across the country. The Canadian Library Project features books wrapped in Indigenous-inspired fabric, each one representing a person and their story. Talia Ricci has more.
This is an art installation based on this painting right here. The painting is called Prayers for My Sisters, and it's about murdered and missing Indigenous women and how they work, like how we pray for them and we take care of them. So what I've decided to do is try to recreate this painting in a three-dimensional opportunity for people to walk through. This particular installation, we have 12 sticks. We have 6 in the back that are carrying Cree colors to represent Treaty 6 Cree territory. The prints are red because a lot of the art installations around murdered and missing Indigenous women have red dress, the red shoes. There's a lot of emphasis on red. I want to honor the work that's come ahead with Stolen Sisters and others. Basically, what I want to do is recreate the soft places of the heart of a woman. So a woman's heart is a soft place, and so when we put this together, we're going to allow people to walk into that space of softness that women create for each other, and that warmth of that ceremony that happens for our women.
It's the season of ghosts, goblins, and witches, but also frightening prices. With inflation creeping up on consumer goods, some Halloween enthusiasts are making sacrifices just to bring a little Halloween cheer to their neighborhoods. Zara Premji spoke with some families who have toiled and troubled to decorate without breaking the budget.
Turning your home into a haunted haven takes more than just effort.
Maybe $3,000 or $4,000. The Reaper, I think he was like pushing $400.
The Desjardins Wong family spends a full month decorating for Halloween, and shopping for ghosts and goblins happens year-round. But the scariest part of all this have been rising prices.
Even like as simple as running the fog machines. I actually just bought a jug of fog juice last weekend, and I want to say it doubled in price. I think it was like $13.99 last year, and I
paid almost $40 for a jug of fog juice. And I was like telling my dad, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy.
But inflation or not, the family says they're committed to their haunted house for one simple reason.
For the community, like just to see like from young to old people enjoying it, it like makes it worth it.
Even if they have to make sacrifices.
Maybe not eating out as much or whatever, right? As like a family, because we know we want to put this event on. So we're definitely more mindful.
And they're not alone.
That's a tomato cage on some mannequin legs. I did buy the fake money on the internet because I didn't know where else to get that.
The whole theme of this home is inflation.
What are people really afraid of right now?
And the owner wasn't going to stop decorating on her third year just because of the cost.
I suppose I've seen the basic supplies that I purchased, like the power and the lighting stuff, definitely get more expensive, but it's still worth it.
The rest are found items because it's too expensive otherwise.
There's a piece of plywood I found in my parents' basement.
But she says pricey or not, she'll pinch the purse strings if she has to.
For joy and my own entertainment and the entertainment of my neighbors.
So if you're taking in Halloween scenes, the homemade haunted houses and foggy setups, be sure to appreciate the sacrifices made to bring shrieks of happiness to the community. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Following this week's announcement that he will be retiring from CBC's The Nature of Things, TV host and environmentalist David Suzuki is reflecting on his career and his legacy in the fight against climate change. The veteran TV host joined our own BC Today to take questions from callers, and he had a message for older Canadians. Take a listen.
The issue of what we're doing to the planet as a place that is our home remains my highest concern. Because it's not going to affect me very much before I kick the bucket, but we're leaving it to our children and grandchildren. And it seems to me at this point as an elder, and I say to all elders, look, you've been privileged to have lived an entire life. We're at a stage where we don't have to pull our punches or, be worried that we're going to offend someone. We can speak the truth from our hearts because we've got nothing to lose. We're not going to lose a job or a raise or a promotion. People may get mad at you, but that's their problem, not yours. So I plead to elders, get off the couch or off the golf course and spend some time in this most important time. Talk to the young ones especially and share what you've learned.
Here's a live shot of the Port of Vancouver. Koljeet will have your full forecast next.
Highway officials say this is one of the worst slides they've seen in 20 years, and it could be until Christmas to get this road back to the way it used to be. Catherine Clark, CBC News on the Squamish Highway. I find the cameraman.
At first, it seemed like just another loose rock coming down. Blasting had been done only an hour before. Cameraman Doug Kerr and I had just completed our report, and then the whole rock face gave way. People screamed to run for cover. Kerr's camera was still rolling, and we ran and ran and ran. All this took 20 seconds. It seemed like a lifetime.
You okay? They come from on top of them? Those sailors are toast. They got him. We're going to need a helicopter.
And put a helicopter on standby, or get him up here.
Bring them up.
Within minutes, rescue crews were on the scene, going up to the rock face where the rock had just come down. They were looking for 6 men, rock scalers, who were working on the face. Early in the day, we took these pictures of the scalers. They're the men who come in after a blast to push down loose rocks. This afternoon, the whole rock face came down on top of them.
I was looking up the slope and noticed the 5 scalars about midway up, and there was this loud noise, and all of a sudden a great slab started to move off an upper knob that they had been working on the day before.
So it was one great big piece of rock.
Yes, it was.
And they weren't near it.
No, the scalars were about halfway between the highway and where the release was.
I've never heard a noise like that before.
It was awesome.
We got there, I found out one of the scalars was hit by a rock. So by the time that we got up there with the oxygen and whatnot, they'd freed him. He was pinned under a rock. His injuries weren't life-threatening, but they were serious enough that it was, I don't know.
You had to get him down.
We had to get him down.
All 6 scalars were injured in the slide. The most seriously injured was taken to Vancouver General Hospital. The other 5 were taken to Lionsgate Hospital. Most will be treated and be home with their families tonight. Catherine Clark, CBC News.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On November 9th, join CBC British Columbia's Michelle Elliott at a free online UBC alumni discussion about decolonizing arts and culture. Register today at alumni.ubc.ca. And never miss an episode of your favorite CBC drama or comedy again with the free CBC Gem app. Check it out at gem.cbc.ca.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Kuljit Kayla joins us now with a look at the weather. Started out pretty beautiful day, but rumor has it rain is on the way.
Rain is here. It's here to stay for quite a few days. There's not one, but 2 systems rolling through, and it will hit Haida Gwaii, the north coast, the central coast, as well as Metro Vancouver, which are all under either wind or rainfall or both warnings as of right now. The rain will really kick in around tomorrow afternoon and continue on into Friday, bringing rainfall accumulations really high, up to 40 to 60 millimeters in some areas. The Tri-Cities will see even more than that tomorrow. So gear up for the rain in terms of, umbrellas, getting your rain boots out and gear like that. Rainfall totals for Coquitlam up to about 40 millimeters tomorrow. Abbotsford the same. And in Victoria, not so bad. They're not going to get as much rain as the Metro Vancouver will. Tonight, we're going to see a little bit of rain, 10 millimeters. And winds also up to 50 kilometers an hour. That's the other part of the story. It's going to get very windy for Thursday, up to 70 kilometers an hour, mostly by the water. So wind and rain mix, I like to call it. It's raining sideways for the next few days. For Thursday and Friday, we're going to get a little bit of a break on Friday. That second system is going to hit on Sunday and give us a lot more rain. It'll dry up a little bit, but some rain for Halloween Monday with temperatures below the double digits finally by Monday. So they'll be about seasonal. It will start to get pretty cold overnight. Michelle?
All right, not a day to forget the umbrella at home.
Not at all.
All right, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Here's one you may not have heard before. Victoria residents are facing off against a thief, and that thief is an owl. Walkers and joggers alike say the bird of prey swoops down mid-stroll and plucks hats right off unsuspecting victims' heads. Take a look.
Oh, it's got something.
Here's my toque.
Oh, it's still your toque?
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, like it scared me. Like all I thought was.
Why did it have your toque? Oh, that's hilarious. Hey, you.
Yeah.
What are you doing there? Are you a fearsome toque killer?
The owls attack their woolly prey along the Galloping Goose Trail that runs from Victoria west into the suburbs. Residents are warned to walk at dusk at your own risk. That is when the owl is most active. That is your late news for Wednesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Good night.